conclusion, let me just say to the people who are watching this broadcast and who are in the state of Georgia, stay in place, make sure that it's a secure place as much as you can do so, and stay off the roads.
Governor Nathan Deal warning all of Georgia to hunker down in a safe place tonight. Thanks for staying with us as we continue to bring you extended coverage about Hurricane Irma here on WTOC.
Hey guys, yeah, I can barely hear y'all out here. I had to take my hat off because it's so windy. The conditions are getting worse. I'm actually holding onto a tree with a rope, but I want to show you, if we can point the camera, you can see that just how windy it's gotten out here. There's a flag in the distance, and it doesn't look like it's going to last much longer out there. But also, I want to show you here the businesses are all boarded up. Some even riding out the storm, and that's literally what we're doing out here. I saw a couple of people. They've come down here to see the conditions, but they quickly left because at this point it's almost unbearable. When I went to get out of the car earlier, I thought it was locked. It actually wasn't. That's how much pressure was being pushed against the car. So it's starting to get pretty dangerous out here at this point. So if you don't have to be out, please do not be out here, but we'll continue to keep you updated.
Yeah, well, Mike, it's not just the rain. Of course, it's the seawater coming from the St. Johns River coming over the seawall at this point. This is one of the first things to become impassable are the walkways that go underneath the bridges that cross the St. Johns River. And this is why high tide plus an additional storm surge is creating this mess. This mess will eventually get into parts of downtown. It will get into parts of this side of the river that we're at right now. And eventually it's going to prevent first responders from responding to emergency calls. In fact, Sheriff Mike Williams here in Duval County told us earlier this evening it's not a matter of if, but when he has to pull his men and women in. Listen to this.
Pre-designated shelter-in-place areas for officers to basically hunker down and ride out the worst of the storm. As we do that, though, again, we're going to monitor that minute by minute, and as soon as we can get people back out responding to calls, we still encourage people to call us if you need us. Maybe a little while before we get there, but we will continue to roll those out.
And Mike and Dawn, I want you to tell John Weatherby something for me. I've got his first alert right here in Jacksonville. This is your first alert to what very well may be heading your way, and we're still hundreds of miles away from the eye of Hurricane Irma right now.
That's right. This wind is definitely picking up where we are. We're going to stay at this gas station for now because these conditions are starting to get really bad out here behind me. I mean, you can see the wind where I'm at. There's definitely barrels, construction barrels behind us that were earlier just moving along on the street on its own because there's been so much crazy wind. Can you guys hear that? Can you hear that? It almost sounds like a jet out here, like I was saying earlier, just the way those winds are whipping. Now, McIntosh County Sheriff's Office, the deputy did stop by, just check on us, make sure everything's okay. They do have reports of a few trees down right now. He said he was just getting in. He's going to go check that out and try to figure out where that is. And if it's safe, we'll go check it out. But I think right now we're just going to kind of chill right here outside of this gas station. This is on Alpha 95. This is the Darien exit. 95 is right there behind us. Kind of crazy wind out here, guys, right now. So we're going to keep checking these conditions as they get in so I can bring those to you and let you guys know how it is getting out here. But definitely we are feeling strong winds out here. I'm going to go ahead and send it back to you guys.
I think it is definitely continuing on that path. I'm actually on Hilton Head Island now, one of those barrier islands that had that mandatory evacuation into place. I'm actually at Hilton Head Harbor. This marina lost about 4 boats last year because of the storm surge, because of this excess wind. I know you can see the dock that I'm standing on is bouncing around a lot. Take a look at those waves. This is the kind of force that we're seeing right now and why officials did not want anyone on this island. I know you can hear the rain pounding my microphone right now. Actually, this ramp that I'm actually standing next to, if I can get okay, correct. This ramp yesterday when we came out here to shoot some video was actually parallel to the gazebo where my cameraman is standing right now. But as you can see, even with low tide, it's steadily rising. These pilings, which are supposed to keep the dock in place. Yesterday, the dock was all the way up here with that water. So this is what we're is looking at potentially for that impact of Hurricane Irma here on Hilton Head Island. Officials want you to keep that in mind. First responders are going to start retreating now because these winds are picking up, this rain is picking up. It's going to be almost impossible to get to you. So if you are at home, hunker down, charge your electronics if you still have power, because things are getting pretty crazy out here right now. I'm going to go ahead and send it back to you because I'm getting pretty soaked.
Our Elizabeth Rollins is down on Tybee, saying that is becoming a real problem down there.
Yeah, guys, we're out here. You can see police actually had to move. They were down here on the Lazaretto Creek Bridge. That was the bridge. Police actually had to move because, as you can see, this water is about to flood Highway 80. Our ride even had to leave because the police said, you got to go. We got to go, but wanted to let you know that this is how high the tide is, and we're getting closer to that mark of 14 feet. We're going to continue to keep you updated throughout the day.
We do have a complete inundation of Butler Avenue, and is now crossing Butler, flowing across Butler, and going into the property of homes and businesses on the land side, if you will, not the beach side of Butler Avenue. And this is just the Atlantic side of Tybee, AJ's dock side. We also have water at least inundating the property, if not the business itself. So two issues going on right now: significant major coastal flooding, and we actually have tornadic thunderstorms developing.
Well, guys, it was creeping up a little bit more, and now it's a lot of it. Check this view behind me as River Street has completely come over the edge. We no longer have a sidewalk. It is absolutely insane and not a safe place to be. I really want to show you this blue car that we were taking a look at about 2 o'clock this morning, projecting the flooding for this car. I guess whoever owns it is way far out and not able to move it, but it is a goner, guys. And so is this parking lot, well, what used to be a parking lot. We were walking out there not too long ago, about 15 minutes, and it was only up to about halfway my shins. If I were to go out in the middle of this parking lot now, it would be above my waist. That's how quickly this tide came up. Again, we knew we were going to look at those high tides at about 12:37. That's what our meteorologists were predicting. But they came up quick, and they're not receding quickly. We do want to give you one last shot at these people who are out here, guys. This is just a sight to see. But again, we don't recommend, if you come down here, getting in any of this water. We're not really quite sure what's below it anymore now that this has come up. We're not really sure where it's come up from. We do have a large police presence down here as they're monitoring people, making sure that they are being smart about this. They've asked us to stay away from the seawall now and to be safe down here. That's just the biggest message for everybody, because these conditions are worsening, and we just want everybody to be safe. We're going to continue team coverage down here at River Street, but for now, reporting live, Danielle Lewan, WTOC.
Yeah, guys, I mean, this is incredible. We're really seeing the effect of this surge right now. This boardwalk is literally covered with sand. It's covered with water. I mean, you can see behind me the lifeguard stand. I mean, there's water basically touching the bottom of it, and the waves are massive, you guys. Wow, that was wow, water in my boots. We tried to make it out to Butler Avenue, but this water is coming in so fast. We're trying to dodge a bullet. We're running here and there, but this is still very much a fluid situation. Literally, it's coming in faster than we can keep up with it. So we're going to continue to keep you updated. You can feel that wind, feel the rain is now coming down. It's coming in waves. Every now and then, you know, we'll have a surge of rain. We're going to be out here keeping you updated. We're live from Tybee. Elizabeth Rollins, WTOC News.
Tonight, WTOC bringing you live team coverage from South Carolina to McIntosh County to Glenn County to Chatham County.
Right now, we do want to check with Amanda LeBreau, who is in downtown Savannah, with the very latest on that. And we've seen that water come up on River Street and up to some of the businesses, but it's starting to recede.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's starting to recede, but you can still see some significant flooding in this parking lot. But if you take a look just beyond the car that we've been showing you all day is getting flooded, the water's gone down a lot, and the walkway, the sidewalk toward the river, is actually still there. It's visible again, unlike it was a lot earlier today. The wall is again visible, so lots of water receding, even, you know, lots of tourists now coming out that they can actually walk toward the river to take some pictures, get a closer look. And the businesses, the only things that we've heard was one general manager said that some of the restaurants started to get just a tiny bit of water in them, and that's why they added some additional sandbags. So we haven't heard any reports of damage too much to businesses here on River Street, which is definitely a good thing with as much water as we saw coming onto the road earlier today. Live in Savannah, Amanda LeBreau, WTOC News.
Well, we want to show you down in Richmond Hill in Bryan County, flooding. This is off of Highway 17 and 144. From WTOC viewer Donna Marie, thank you so much for sending in these pictures. We want you to do so only if you can safely send them. But as you can see, that shopping center underwater.
That's right. Look at that one little car, 2 cars out there stuck in all that water.
Mike and Dawn, Cutter Martin and I are on Burnstead Avenue, right up on Main Street here. It has turned into a mainstream of sorts. I'm going to flip the camera around so you can see exactly what we're looking at right now. That water over the roadway, you can just now start to see the center line. It was actually a little deeper when we first came up here, but I'm going to pan over rather to the left here so you can see this parking lot right here at this intersection just covered with water, a substantial amount right now. Appears a truck is given a go at this water, which again we always hear and recommend against no matter what kind of vehicle you're driving in, because it can be dangerous still, even if you do have a vehicle that you think you can get through that water in. But take a look at this storefront. There's someone turning around, going back the other way toward Garden City on Main Street. But this storefront has a good amount of water going right up to it. And actually, it appears to be in the front door right here, again on the corner of Main Street and Burnstead Avenue in Garden City. We're going to continue to stay here at this area. A lot of people are turning around, thankfully. We're going to stay right here and not actually get into this water because, again, you can see just how deep that is, barely seeing the center line. So, again, we're going to give you another live look here in just a little bit, so stay with us.
Elizabeth Rollins has been out there in the conditions for the past 48 hours. And, Elizabeth, how are things right now? Have they calmed down any?
Well, we're about 6 hours after that high tide and that surge of 14 feet that covered Highway 80. We still have some neighborhoods underwater. Look behind me, Lewis Avenue still underwater, a couple of feet actually. We just saw someone try to wade through the water there. If you'll remember, this was one of the neighborhoods that was underwater during Hurricane Matthew. But this time, a lot more neighborhoods flooded, and it really shocked a lot of residents. You know, some tell me, you know, Matthew, we had a lot of wind, and we had a lot of debris and trees in the road. This time, not so much. The big issue was the flooding. And take a listen to one neighbor.
I've never seen it like this. I've never had water underneath my house. I live right behind this house. This is my mother's, and it is just covered. It's 5-6 inches in my house.
Now, obviously, her reaction, I mean, a lot of neighbors are saying the same thing. It's just a lot more people impacted by the flooding this time. So it's definitely going to be a different type of recovery. Of course, Highway 80 still closed at this point, primarily because there's still water on the road. So it's still taking a lot longer. I think we're getting close to low tide. So we don't know yet when all of this will subside, but we'll be out here. We'll continue to keep you updated. And Tybee still without power. And if you're on the island, you're stranded on the island, of course, until they reopen those roads.
Well, we've been showing you the track of Hurricane Irma as it was making its way through Florida, and we had the vantage point as well of having our own David Clue down on the riverfront there in Jacksonville as the then hurricane was coming through, and because of flooding in that area, it appears he's going to be stuck there for the time being. Take a look.
What the city of Jacksonville has really suffered here is a lot less about wind damage and more about this. Flood damage. There's 2 feet of water on this side of the St. Johns River. On the opposite side of the river, what you're going to see is 2 to 3 feet of water in most of the intersections downtown. A lot of flooded businesses, including the Jacksonville landings. Power has maintained here with the possible exception of some traffic signals. Not a big deal on streets like this, of course, because we're not going to be seeing traffic trying to traverse these intersections. So we have reached the point now where we are seeing sunshine and we are into recovery. And nothing is a more welcome sight than the signs of recovery after a storm like Irma. The damage from wind here has been, for the most part, the lesser of evils. The parking structure under this skyscraper apartment building did lose some of its sunshade, but the people and power were untouched. An occasional broken window gave Irma a peek inside, but the real source of damage is back on the ground. Water, some of it 4 feet deep, is everywhere hours after Irma passed. Bobby Harris owns property on both sides of the St. Johns River. When you look at what you're seeing of the property you own on this side of the St. Johns and the home you own on the other,
right.
What are you thinking?
I'm amazed on both sides. The river is in both neighborhoods now, and I really wasn't expecting anything like this at all.
Because the water wasn't moving, the bridges across the St. Johns remained closed even past dinner time. The only thing allowed through had lights and sirens. Even power crews were turned back. Flooded garages and river walks are one thing, but those same flood waters present a potential environmental disaster as well. The smell of fuel from a generator at the River Place apartment tower forced residents here to sound the alarm.
We are investigating an oil spill here in the flooded waters. We're not quite sure how much has released at this point. It's an underground storage tank releasing some kind of oil, approximately 500 gallons in the tank. We don't want it to get further into the environment and affect any kind of amphibious, anything like that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we're glad you're here. Yes, recovery here will likely be a long one. Salt water is especially destructive. In the meantime, this is Jacksonville's new water world, and folks are already getting used to it. The problem with the water here is it's just not going anywhere. We've seen it ebb and flow maybe 2 or 3 inches. This is St. Johns River water right now, and it's trapped everybody who's on this side of the river, staying on this side. On the other side, they're keeping the bridges closed so you can't get over there as well. For us, we're stuck too.
If you look at my foot, lots of dirt, lots of soot. Well, ta-da! I am actually inside of the parking garage of the hotel that we've been staying in during the duration of the storm. If you take a look, this area was filled with water yesterday when we came back from lunch. In fact, you can see the water actually sat for a couple of hours, hitting here almost about to my knee. This was the situation that we came back to, which goes to show that the tidal surge, that high tide, all played a major role in the damage that we're seeing across the low country. Now, the hotel officials actually had to move the cars out of the garage and parallel park them in front of the entryway, actually blocking the entrance to the hotel because it was just too dangerous to have people's cars down here. Now, I spoke to some business owners throughout the low country who compared and contrast Hurricane Matthew with Hurricane Irma, and so far they're saying things look kind of the same.
Matthew was way up here beyond us, at least 2.5 feet or so higher than it is right now, but this is not high tide. So what's going to happen, the tide's coming up extremely fast in the last 2 or 3 hours. You can see all the rainfall's not helping the situation any, but I expect it to be as high as Matthew the way it's looking right now. I could be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong, but that's the way it's looking right now.
So I showed you this this is a different angle, but I showed you this house this morning a little earlier and talked about it falling right on top of the house. That was yesterday morning as Irma started coming in, but let me take a look. Right across the street, right here, this tree fell in the afternoon right next to a home. Thankfully did not fall. There's a little bit of damage to the roof over to the side, but you can see this tree. These two are not 50 feet apart, one falling in the morning, one falling in the afternoon. But I want to show you one other thing that is part of the concern now across the community. You can see these power lines down, stretched across the street. This is Miller Street, and it is closed. We're told that in around Bullitt County there are more than 8,000 homes without power. The power crews for the EMC as well as Georgia Power are getting out this morning. Many of them were out yesterday assessing the damage. They were going to start trying to make those repairs along the lines starting this morning. Coming up at 8 o'clock, there is an Emergency Operations Center meeting, and we'll be over there and we'll bring you the latest on that and let you know what's going on. We'll have that for you during Mid-Morning Live as well as noon.
Just the scope of damage along the river down here is just too much to take. But we spent some time in Shellman Bluff, and I want to show you, I'm standing right now in the Brack. All right, so you can see that this is basically about 4, and then this pile, that's as tall as me, and I'm 5'7", and so we're talking about more than the predicted 4 to 6 storm surge. We're well south of the Savannah area, and this was hammered all night long. We saw those bands, we saw that onshore flow Sunday and all day Monday, so that's why it's worse down here in McIntosh County.
Well, Tybee Island, one of the hardest hit areas in our viewing locations. Residents given the all clear, though, this afternoon to return the island and assess the damage to their homes and other property and businesses. Our Elizabeth Rollins joins us now live from Tybee with a look at some of that ocean front. Elizabeth?
Yeah, Mike, we're actually at one of the oceanfront properties, and you can see over here the top floor, the balcony just completely wiped out by this storm. There's another building just down the road. It's missing part of the roof. And this is the first time, today was the first day we were actually able to get out here to see the damage out here at the oceanfront, because this building was completely surrounded by water after that 14-foot high tide that came in around noon yesterday. This area was completely surrounded by water, and so we're finally seeing this. You'll recall Highway 80 was also surrounded and completely underwater. Highway 80 has since reopened, so that's good news. Residents are finally coming back out and seeing Tybee for the first time. And we got some good news about an hour ago. We found out that Georgia Power has already restored power. The folks out on Tybreza Street, those businesses, have already gotten their lights back on, so that's good news for them. So if you don't have power, you should have it shortly. We're live from Tybee. Elizabeth Rollins, WTOC News.
Right now, we're continuing our Irma coverage in Bryan County. Ken Griner spending the day there finding out how the storm impacted local wildlife.
All right, we're in Bryan County, about 17 miles east of Richmond Hill, a little past the Kilkenny area. Now, out there is the Lincoln River. You can see in the distance the Lincoln River, about 4 miles from the Atlantic Ocean. Plenty of saltwater marsh there. The tidal surge, or the storm surge, was so big, it came over. This was a freshwater pond, and it wraps around the house. In here were 300 to 500 fish. As I say, it wraps way around. What happens when you get salt water in with fresh water? You get a lot of dead fish. Here's an example. Freshwater fish don't survive with saltwater conditions. We ran into the owner here, Hank King. Hank, thanks for talking to us. You ever seen anything like this?
No, never seen tides like this. I think about a 9.1, 9.4 is probably as high as and it was a normal tide as far as high tides go, but it was a lot of water. Any chance of getting this freshwater pond back? Oh yeah, what I'll do is let it drain down completely, and I have a deep well. I'll pump rainwater, and I'll pump water back into it, and I'll buy new fish. Okay. All right. Good luck with that. As you see, plenty of people all over our area have a lot of work to do. WTOC is east of Richmond Hill. Let's now take it back to the studio.